Hello, PropSet students. In this video, I will explain some of the graphs and probabilities in the project. So, of course, you're going to make a cover page. Check the description because I would like to make sure that you actually have your own name on the cover page and the date. And the demographics are given to you in the first project workday worksheet. So check that, make sure you're using the correct demographics. On your menu, remember that for the appetizers, you'll need to have one vegetarian, one gluten-free, and one that's both vegetarian and gluten-free. For your entrees, you should have 2 that are gluten-free, 2 that are vegetarian, and 1 that is neither gluten-free nor vegetarian. Here's a two-way chart of appetizers for the 100 customers. So on the top, we have the people. So you were given that there were 100 customers on a day, and that number is in the bottom right here. Of those 100 customers, we do know how many were gluten-free and vegetarian. That comes from your demographic information. So in my case, the Canadians, 2% of them were gluten-free and 10% were vegetarian. So 2% of 100 people is 2 people. And 10% of 100 people is 10 people. So the next thing I did was I filled in that there were 2 gluten-free customers and that there were 10 vegetarian customers. Remember that your demographics are different and those will be outlined on your first worksheet. So I had 12 customers already taken care of, which means that there were 88 customers with no restrictions. So I filled in this bottom row first. Now, of this customers with no restrictions, I decided that they are going to split themselves evenly between the 3 entrees, and you should do that as well. They have no restrictions, they can eat any of them. I did not split evenly, and you can't have a fraction of a person, so I couldn't put 29.3 for each of these. So I just had to decide which appetizer I thought would get that extra person. I chose the spanakopita. For the gluten-free customers, there were 2 of them. They could not eat the spanakopita because it's not gluten-free, so I split them between the other 2 appetizers, which is the salad and the figs. They split evenly. And then there's 10 vegetarian customers, and they could not eat the bacon-wrapped figs, so that's a 0, and I split them evenly between the salad and the spanakopita. So then once I have those, then I total across. So for the salad, there were 29 plus 1 plus 35 customers eating salad, which gave me a total of 35. We'll come back and talk about the probabilities later because I know for your worksheets you're creating the charts first. All right, so here's the chart of entree probabilities. You want to start with the customers. So we know 88% of customers have no restrictions, and we know 2% are gluten-free, and 10% are vegetarian in my situation. Then you want to have a line that comes out from each customer group that describes the entrees they could choose. So no restrictions has 5 choices for entrees, and gluten-free, they have 2 choices for entrees, and vegetarian, they have 2 choices for entrees. You're going to assume that the entrees are equally preferred, and so you'll split 100% by 5 for the no restriction customers, and that would give you 20% for each, which is 0.2. 100% divided by the 2 entrees for the gluten-free, and 100% divided by 2 entrees for the vegetarians. We will come back and look at these probabilities in a little bit. All right, the Venn diagram may have been the most tricky one to figure out, so let's look at this together. The one thing that was easy in the Venn diagram was knowing that 35 people had salad, because that is something I already figured out in my two-way chart. I can see that there's a total of 35 people who had salad. However, I didn't know how many were in the overlap here and how many had just salad. Knowing how many people had salmon, that was a little trickier. I'm going to just put, for a moment, I'm going to put a little 35 on the bottom here so I can remember that 35 people had salad. This is not part of my final answer. It's just something to help me think about that. So for the salmon, I need to come back to my tree chart, and I notice that there are two possibilities for having salmon for your entree. It could be somebody with no restrictions having salmon, or it could be somebody who is gluten-free having salmon. So to find the probability that a customer had salmon, I need to multiply the 0.88 times the 0.2. That will give me the probability that a person with no restrictions had salmon. And I need to multiply the 0.02 times the 0.5. That will give me the probability that a gluten-free customer had salmon. And then I'm going to add together the ways that you could have salmon as your entree. So I'm going to do that right now in Desmos. All right, so here you can see I multiplied 88% of people with no restrictions times a 20% chance that they would get salmon. And I added to that 2% chance that a person was gluten-free, and then a 50% chance that they would get salmon. And this gives me 0.186, which is an 18.6% chance the customer is going to get salmon. And since I have 100 customers, that would be 18.6 customers. However, I have to round it because I can't have a 0.6 of a customer. So I rounded that to 19 customers getting salmon. So going back here, I know that 19 customers have salmon, but I do not know yet how many people are in the overlap. So there's the 19. All right, so 35 customers are getting salad, 19 are getting salmon, but remember that I can also think of these as probabilities. There's a 35% chance that a customer is getting salad and a 19% chance that a customer is getting salmon. So if I want to find the probability that a customer gets both, remember these are independent events and I'm going to just multiply their probabilities together. So I'm going to go back into Desmos and do that. All right, so when I multiply the probabilities, I get a 0.0665%, or 0.0665 is the probability. That would be 6.65% chance that a customer is getting both. And I do have to round that to the nearest person. So 7 customers are getting both. Now things start to fall into place. If I know that 7 customers are getting both, I'm going to put that number there in the middle. 35 got salad altogether. So of those 35, 7 are in the middle, and that means 28 just got salad. 19 customers got salmon. 7 of them are already here in the middle. They got salmon and salad, so that leaves 12 that just had the salmon. Now, if I add all these customers up, I'm going to have, let's see, 35, 45, 47 customers that had salad or salmon or both. And then I subtract that from the 100 customers to find that 53 had neither salad nor salmon.